appreciate it. We are about conversations at Westmont. One of the really fun things about being in academia is that you're always engaging meaningful questions and you're always invited to participate in meaningful conversations about those deep and meaningful questions. And so what's exciting about this downtown series is that we can invite you from all walks of life in the Santa Barbara community to join into these conversations with us by listening to what these two professors will have to say tonight and then engaging them in conversation afterwards. There will be a period of time afterwards to get some questions and answers and conversation going, so we look forward to that. And so these are about conversations that matter. Tonight's topic is no exception. Dr. Knoll and Dr. Morgan are both professors of economics, or professors in the Economics and Business Department. And tonight they're going to explore Haiti's economy and the prospects of raising the country's standards of living in tonight's lecture. And it's entitled Haiti, the 2010 Earthquake and the Underlying Economic Tragedy. Let me just give you a little bit of introduction of our two speakers tonight. Dr. Ed Knoll earned his Master's of Business Administration from the University of Texas at Austin and a doctorate in economics from Louisiana State University. He earned the Outstanding Teacher of the Year Award in the Social Sciences in 1998. He has published work on labor market regulation and is currently involved in writing a book project on the history of moral reflections in economics. He has taught international economics on study programs in China, Japan, Europe, and Russia. Dr. Paul Morgan earned a master's degree from Northern Illinois University and a Doctor of Arts from Illinois State University. He was an instructor at the International Business Institute in Europe for 10 summers between 1980 and 1995. He is an instructor for the Westmont in Asia program, or has been a professor, an instructor in the Westmont in Asia program in the summer of 1988 and 1999, and he directed the summer course of economic development in Honduras in 1991. Would you join me tonight in welcoming Dr. Ed Knoll and Dr. Paul Morgan to engage us in this very important and meaningful conversation.
Good evening. Thank you, Warren. Well, I'm Dr. Ed Knoll, and I'm so pleased that you all come out this evening for this conversation. As Warren suggests, we hope it really will be a meaningful conversation about Haiti and about the challenges facing any poor country when it, in fact, encounters economic disaster. So I'd like to begin with a couple of questions, and then I'll set the preface for what we'll discuss tonight and give you a little bit of, as well, the order in which we'll talk about these topics. When faced with natural disasters, how do the economies of poor countries respond? What are the fundamental economic and social reasons for their poverty in the first place? And how do these factors hamper their ability to respond to an earthquake, or similarly to a tsunami, or other natural disasters? What's the best strategy to genuinely help them? That is, spur their long-term sustainable economic development. Well, we wish to focus on the case of Haiti for these questions. And as we do so, I want to give credit where credit's due, and that is to our Westmont economics and business majors for their passion for the plight of the people of Haiti. Last spring, they prodded Professor Morgan and I to engage in research on this Caribbean economy in light of the events of early 2010. Early in the spring semester, that students told us, we've got to talk about this. Can you give us a special forum, a discussion time for this? And so I wanted to respond to that. Frankly, I had students ready to leave Westmont during the second week of class to go to Haiti and go indefinitely down there to work on relief aid for the projects. And I talked that through with them, and maybe it would be a good idea to get down there, but maybe spring break might work better, or or a longer-term mission in the summer. So we had some great discussions that way, and I love their passion about this topic. Tuesday, January 12th of this year will long reign in the memory of every living Haitian. A magnitude 7.0 earthquake shook the country from its center, close to the capital city of Port-au-Prince. And the devastation facing Haiti from this earthquake is immense. When we Think about, of course, some of the pictures you no doubt seen from the media, collapsed buildings, people looking for their loved ones. An estimated 280,000 buildings and residences collapsed or were severely damaged. And of course, even more significantly, the Haitian government estimates a loss of some 230,000 lives. And of course, we could multiply the pictures or the scenes that I'm sure a number of you have encountered in various places in the media about the devastation in Haiti. The impact on key government organizations in Haiti was severe. To get a sense of the relative proportion of the damage to Haitian institutions, we'd have to imagine that our own White House, Supreme Court, Congress, and FBI have been flattened. That's the kind of impact that Haiti itself felt. Now, as we noted, Port-au-Prince bore much of the damage. And Port-au-Prince, you can see, is on the coast of Haiti. Haiti is one third of the island of Hispaniola. And in fact, the earthquake happened very much by Port-au-Prince. For months this was a city without reserves of food, water, power, shelter, hospitals, or medicine. Hundreds of thousands of workers had no wages for weeks this past spring. The banks were mostly closed. Many of the cash transfer businesses were destroyed to wire remittance of funds from families outside of Haiti. And it's remained a cashless city, Port-au-Prince has, for much of the year. Of course, with the immediate economic challenges facing Haiti, relief agencies have poured in resources to address its short-term needs. In fact, billions of dollars of aid have been pledged to help Haiti. This, in fact, reflects a pattern of foreign aid received by Haiti in the past half-century. Yet Haiti's long-run prospects for raising living standards remain problematic. Haiti remains the poorest country in the Americas. This speaks to what New York Times columnist David Brooks has called the underlying tragedy of Haiti's economy. Thinking of this tragedy, we wish to ask, what are the particular foundational causes of the poverty that made Haiti so vulnerable to massive earthquake damage? And what strategies might Haiti best employ to realize long-term sustainable economic development? So we want to address these questions, realizing that the answers for Haiti are not simple, but will require careful changes, reflecting a close understanding of their particular economic situation. So this leads me to begin with an orientation to Haiti's economy. I'll also briefly discuss the nature of the economic aid it's received in the past. My colleague, Professor Morgan, will discuss economic research on the best long-term economic strategies for developing economies such as Haiti. And while I'm not sure I would characterize either one of us as amazing, I would definitely say that Joy Bollinger, who you'll hear at the end, is amazing. And she'll be speaking about life in Haiti on the ground and a lot of the projects helping orphans she's involved with. So we have a special benefit of hearing from Joy and her work there in Haiti towards the end of our presentation. So let's take up first and consider the Haitian economy. Haiti, of course, is a Caribbean country which occupies about 1/3 of the island of Hispaniola. The other 2/3 is occupied by the Dominican Republic. Let's see if I can go backwards here. There we go. So there's the island of Hispaniola, and you can see again Haiti, pretty much this third here, Dominican Republic or DR on the right there, the other 2/3. Haiti's economy makes it the poorest country in the Americas. Only 50% of Haiti's people are literate. About 2/3 of Haitians work in the agricultural sector, but this contributes only 30% of its GDP. That, of course, for any economist, raises a number of questions. When you talk about 2/3 of the labor force employed in the agricultural sector, but only contributing less than 1/3 to its total output. Mangoes and coffee are two of Haiti's most significant exports. Now, Haiti itself, of course, has had a sad history. It's a former French colony that's been victimized by opponents, by oppression and slavery. Yet, as David Brooks points out, so has Barbados, also in the Caribbean, and it's doing fairly well. Some social scientists observe a difference in that Haitian culture seems to encourage, it said, a kind of fatalism. Life is arbitrary and capricious, planning is futile. There seems to be little interest among many Haitians in passing on their assets to future generations, for example. Now, economists like to make comparisons between nations that share similar languages and resources, yet have vastly different levels of economic performance. Economists don't get a lot of opportunities to do lab experiments, and where we do, we like to take advantage of that. And so we think of course, the case of North and South Korea sharing a similar, essentially the same language, similar resource base, yet performing very differently with different kinds of economic institutions and systems. South Korea clearly performing much better than the North. If we ask the same kinds of questions about Haiti and the Dominican Republic, perhaps we can find some value added or benefit from doing so. Clearly they share the same island, same basic environment. Both have endured ruthless dictators, corruption, and foreign invasions. Yet the Dominican Republic has forests, economic progress. It's the second largest economy in Central America and the Caribbean. And the Dominican Republic has a higher per capita income. So if we adjust for population, we find the Dominican Republic having about a 5,000 per capita income. Haiti, on the other hand, sadly has deforestation. Estimates say 95 to 98% of the country is deforested. Low per capita income, income per person around $800, and sadly early death. Haitian deforestation is a whole story in itself, but I'll just say that stems a lot from stripping of hillsides, of trees for fuel, the use of wood for coal to cook, but also charcoal is used in energy-starved Port-au-Prince. The soil erodes, crop yields shrink, and sadly, floods become more severe. Another problem for Haiti and being vulnerable to natural disasters. Why the differences otherwise between the Dominican Republic and Haiti? Well, the Heritage Index of Economic Freedom reports that the Dominican Republic has a significantly higher ranking with regard to economic freedom than Haiti. The measures that look at trade, look at business investment climate, look at property rights, all suggest the Dominican Republic is faring much better than Haiti. It's recently dropped its average tariff rate. It's participated in CAFTA. What's CAFTA? The Central American Free Trade Agreement, lowering tariff barriers for trade among Central American nations and encouraging openness of trade. The DR has strengthened investor protections by improving financial transparency. It permits virtually unlimited foreign investment. It still suffers from some corruption, no question. It has some limited access to credit, which hurts its investment and entrepreneurial climate. On the other hand, Haiti really is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Its small financial sector remains underdeveloped and fragile. Many economic transactions are undertaken outside of formal banking institutions. 80% of financial assets in Haiti are held by the 3 largest banks. Capital markets there are poorly developed. And moreover, when we examine the institution of Haiti's state, we find it has an unreliable police force. This is symptomatic of a very weak government, which has skimpy operations and provided very poor public services even prior to the earthquake. Now its normal operations have largely broken down. Haiti has some of the weakest property laws in the world, as well as some of the most burdensome business regulations. Mineral deposits, natural resources, they're considered the property exclusively of the state. And Haiti's poor property rights, I think, and many economic historians would want to say, reflect the legacy of French civil law, which tends to be heavily reliant on fairly arbitrary executive and judicial decisions, much less reliant than common law nations on the judiciary to curb executive and legislative power. Laws and rulings in Haiti simply are not often consistently enforced. And moreover, Haiti lacks laws to handle modern commercial practices. Many of its commercial disputes are settled out of court, if at all. Foreign investment requires special authorization. And many relief organizations are convinced that if there was more transparency, more encouragement of foreign investment, that with the necessary investment, Haiti could produce at least 80% of its own food consumption needs, in that sense be more self-sufficient. What about corruption? Professor Morgan will speak much more in detail about this, but I'll just note on the Corruption Perceptions Index, which social scientists monitor as well, Haiti has consistently ranked among the most corrupt countries in the world. In the late 1970s and 1980s, its president, Papadoc Duvalier, robbed the Haitian treasury. More recently, under President Aristide, drug trafficking has emerged as a major industry. And then even under most recent presidential regimes, widespread corruption remains, allowing disputing parties to purchase favorable outcomes. Custom officers demand bribes to clear shipments. All of this tells us that institutions matter. Institutions, by that we mean the rules of the game, how business is done, the rule of law, ensuring transparency, ensuring property rights. Sadly, in Haiti, there are weak economic institutions. Arbitrary judicial decisions, reliance on bribes, a major climate of uncertainty for legitimate businesses. Now, I do want to say as well a little bit of a word about foreign aid for Haiti and speak to this question of short-term relief and the long-term business strategies, best strategies. And again, Professor Morgan will add to the discussion here on this. When you look at foreign aid makes up about 30 to 40% of the Haitian national government's budget. The largest donor to Haiti is the U.S., followed by Canada and the European Union. The aid flows in a strong stream from various international relief agencies, but sadly, there's a strong possibility that the flow of funds will be actually reaching the Haitian people on the ground will be very tiny in the next year or two. The government of Haiti is in really not much of a position to monitor 20 or more complicated donor agencies to follow up on designing projects and dispersing funds. All kinds of questions there about accountability and tracking the funds, how they're spent, to the best purposes, the purposes the donors intended them for. There's some lessons that some draw from the relief efforts for Katrina in 2005. What worked best? The efforts of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Association, or private organizations, all the way from the Red Cross, Salvation Army, and yes, even Walmart. So there are questions there as to which might best serve even Haiti in a situation like a disaster it faces. But most everyone seems to agree that the cash shouldn't go directly to the Haitian government. Now, some people have suggested that Haiti deserves a new version of the Marshall Plan. We remember that the Marshall Plan, of course, was a $13 billion effort to rebuild much of Western Europe after the devastation of World War II. The U.S. was a major contributor to the finance efforts there, which funded reconstruction of European hospitals, roads, airports, city centers, and factories. Before the war now, of course in Europe, many of the beneficiary nations had already possessed fairly high levels of human capital, relatively advanced technologies, and institutions conducive to growth. When they received from the Marshall Plan this short-term capital infusion, growth was readily started, of course, in the devastated economies of France, Germany, and other countries of Western Europe. Columbia economist Jeff Sachs says that we should spend between $10 and $15 billion on a 5-year development Marshall Plan for Haiti. Haiti needs water and sanitation systems and power systems. Now, the thing about it, of course, is that Haiti already has in place many aid organizations. And if you look at the numbers, estimates say that there are over 10,000 non-governmental organizations already on the ground in Haiti. And in fact, some people call Haiti the Republic of NGOs, the Republic of Non-Governmental Organizations, because of their widespread presence. And in fact, they, by many estimates, have more NGOs per capita than any other country. They feed the people, provide basic health services, and do much more. But what will massive funding efforts do in Haiti? Well, we have a little bit of sense already from the track record of recent years. And sadly, the reports from the World Bank and other organizations suggest that oftentimes aid efforts create and foster a kind of cultural of dependence in Haiti. For example, the World Bank admits that its efforts for some 16 years in the latter part of the 20th century produced few sustainable benefits for Haiti. Yes, there was short-term relief. Yes, there were basic health services. But in terms of sustainable development, the World Bank said we face the problem of dysfunctional budgetary and financial systems in Haiti. The government simply didn't have the capacity to manage the funds it was receiving from foreign aid and NGOs. So if you can imagine with me, food aid comes, for example, to Haiti. Corn, wheat, or rice crop arrives at the port in Port-au-Prince here, right? And so a portion of the crop, all of a sudden, when it comes into the port, has to come under the control of government officials and politicians. They'll pass it on to their supporters and relatives. Even in some instances, it's by ethnicity to various tribes. This boosts their chances in the next election. Another portion of the crop sitting there at the harbor winds up on the black market. The increase of supply of grain then starts to drive down grain prices. Grain can be dumped often at extremely low prices. And what incentives does that give for Haitian farmers to produce more grain? Well, of course, it creates disincentives with grain crops prices being driven down. So instead, perhaps we ought to think about a recovery operation providing funds in a transparent recovery fund with multiple donors held accountable, with bank accounts that are clearly monitored, and that would help to fund Haiti's survival and reconstruction. We might also ask about whether Haiti could grow its tourism sector, as the Dominican Republic has. And in fact, has been a big factor behind the DR's growth. And Haiti at one time did have a vibrant tourism sector. And we might as well ask about long-term strategies as well for education for Haiti, and frankly for the U.S.'s role in looking at the tariff barriers we set up, not only towards Haiti, but also for other lesser developed countries in protecting and sheltering our own farming industries. In the end, there's no question, short-term relief efforts need to happen in Haiti. And there seems to be no question about that. Even the role, if we think of FedEx from the private sector, and helping shipments come in the bulk of supplies, and the role of the Red Cross and the Salvation Army. And yet Haiti's need long-term is for a strong commercial agricultural system and manufacturing. This will require the establishment of the rule of law, clear and definite enforcement of property rights, and a basic educational system. Again, in the end, institutions matter. So from there.
Well, I'm happy to be here tonight and see several former students of mine here in the audience, which is, I'm not sure what to think about that, but I'm happy to see you. And yeah, it's been really interesting to consider the situation in Haiti, beginning with the earthquake last January. And to think about, what started me thinking about this was an article by David Brooks called The Underlying Tragedy, which maybe some of you read in the New York Times. And to start thinking about, well, why was it that there was such a tragedy caused by this earthquake, which was measured a 7.0 earthquake. And so the same size earthquake that killed 63 people in San Francisco killed, the government estimated 230,000 people in Haiti. The Radio Netherlands questioned that and estimated 92,000. Nobody really knows how many people were killed, but it was a massive devastation, a massive tragedy. And the devastation was just dramatic. And so why is that? And I think it's clear that there is a strong association between poverty and the kind of devastation that happens as a result of natural disasters. Well, what is it that relieves poverty then? If poverty ends up causing such tragedies because people can't respond in the way that they would in rich countries to the kind of tragedies that occur through hurricanes and earthquakes and such, what is it that would relieve the poverty? So that's kind of the underlying question, and the underlying tragedy is the result of the poverty of Haiti. And so one of the basic questions is economic growth good for poor countries? And surprisingly, I don't know what you've read about this or if you've thought about this, but surprisingly that's a somewhat controversial question. Is economic growth good for the poor? Paul Collier, in his book, The Bottom Billion, refers to an earlier paper that he did called Growth is Good for the Poor. And surprisingly, this paper was challenged by the president of the World Bank, who called him up and said, "Are you sure you want to say growth is good for the poor? Economic growth is good for the poor?" And he received quite a bit of interaction or reaction as a result of writing a paper like that. So Collier goes on to say that, yes, the empirical evidence shows that growth is good for the poor. And the idea that it should be sustainable growth is not so important. What is important is that growth occurs on some level. So the suspicion of growth tends to, Collier says, tends to undermine development thinking because of side effects or because of some kinds of maybe unintended consequences of growth. But when you look at the data, you see a very strong correlation between economic growth and growth for the poor, increased GDP for the poor. So in this graph, you see growth rates on the horizontal axis and per capita income of the poor on the vertical axis. You often hear that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, some kind of statement like that. This evidence shows that the poor, actually in this regression study, the poor end up a little bit better off. They gain a little bit more than the rest of society. The regression shows a number there of 1.07x, so it's a little bit greater than 1. And this is evidence, and this is part of the kind of evidence that Collier was referring to, that poor countries need economic growth. If they're going to escape poverty, if they're going to be able to respond to tragedies like the kind of tragedy of the earthquake in January, they need to pursue economic growth. A similar study, this is a study by Chen and Revalian at the World Bank, 150 different country level spells of poverty. And what they found here was that as income grows, as you move horizontally to higher levels of income, that poverty declines. And in fact, if you look at the past 25 years or so, poverty in the world has been more than cut in half. A new study by Xavier Sala-E Martin at, I think, Columbia University, he estimates now that the number of people below $1 a day poverty is at about 550 million people. Collier's book suggested that there were 1 billion people below the $1 a day poverty level. Now, as Dr. Knoll suggested, one of the ways that economists look at a situation like this is to look at the kind of freedom people have to raise themselves out of poverty, to pursue business activity, to pursue various kinds of economic activity. Are they supported in that? Are they free to pursue that? Are there obstacles that they need to overcome in order to achieve better results? And one of the things that is positively correlated with advance for countries to gain higher levels of economic growth and advance is economic freedom. There are a couple of different organizations that measure freedom, 10 or 12 different categories of freedom that they look at. And if you look at Haiti, you find that there are several places where Haiti falls short in terms of allowing people to really generate their own well-being and to respond to their own needs. So this graph shows the, again, pretty strong positive correlation between freedom and GDP per capita is on the vertical axis. So as freedom increases, GDP per capita also increases fairly strongly. So these data support Collier's idea that growth is good for the poor. This one is one that shows changes in freedom and changes in growth. And the countries that had the greatest change, the greatest advance in freedom are on the left here. The first quintile had the highest growth rate, 4.89%, compared to the lowest quintile in terms of how much change in freedom they experienced with the lowest level of advance in economic growth. So David Brooks asked this question, why is Haiti so poor? And Dr. Knoll talked about the comparison between Haiti and the Dominican Republic and so forth. And it's one of those places in the world where you can see differences in economic institutions and laws and economic system and the dramatic effect it has on people's lives and their ability, their prosperity. You look at North and South Korea, another similar case, or East and West Germany. All these cases, you had peoples who were basically the same culturally, had similar economic backgrounds until they went completely different directions in terms of their economic institutions and their economic systems. So this is another kind of case like that, probably not as clear as those cases, but still an interesting case of comparison. So I think I'm going to skip on to the next slide here. So what are some of the reasons why Haiti hasn't grown as fast? Its level of GDP per capita is about $1,300 US dollars per year. So if you think about poverty levels, you're usually talking about $1 a day poverty level or $2 a day poverty level. So an average of $1,300 for everybody in Haiti is a pretty low rate, and some people estimate the number of people below $2 a day are about 80% of the Haitian population. So if we look at some of these problems, property law is one of the areas that I think is very significant in terms of its implications for the possibilities that people have to advance. And if you look at this is the Wall Street Journal Heritage Foundation look at economic freedom in about 10 different categories. And you can see the bar, the yellow and red bar is the Haitian level rating on freedom in different areas. And the vertical lines there are the world averages. So you can see that Haiti falls short in several categories, and in other categories it's doing quite well. The strengths that stand out, trade. Paul Collier believes that Haiti is in a very unique position right now vis-a-vis U.S. trade. Essentially no tariffs at all. He is promoting the idea of developing a garment industry in Haiti. He thinks that would be very competitive. They would be able to compete easily with China and have a number of advantages. They require perhaps free enterprise zones similar to what China has done in order to achieve that. But if you look at these different categories, you find some weaknesses as well. Shortcomings that stand out are in the area of business, investment, financial freedom, property rights, and corruption. So these are some of the problem areas that keep Haitians from being able to improve themselves at a level that they would like. Property rights are one of the fundamental institutions that leads to economic development. And you go back into the Old Testament law and you find very strong protection of property rights for the Israelite people. If you look at the world today and you look at property law, you find very serious problems in most of the countries that are not growing. They also have weak or non-existent property law or law that's irrelevant to most of the people. This is another regression study that shows the impact of various kinds of factors on economic growth. And you see there the very strong positive growth factor is the rule of law, which includes property law. There are other interesting things here too that we won't take time to look at right now. One of the authors, economists who has written in the area of development that's made a pretty big impact around the world on development thinking is Hernando De Soto. He's written 2 books, The Other Path and The Mystery of Capital. And in these books, he points out how important the rule of law is, how important property law is. And he has estimated that poor people own assets in the amount of $9.3 trillion worth that is not available to these people to use in any legal way or to use as collateral to get a loan from a bank or anything like that. It's dead. He calls it dead capital. He then says the main reason, or a crucial reason why capitalism has tended to work in the West but not in the poor world, is the fact that we have good, well-developed property law, that people can take property they have in the United States. Most people that start a business start it by using their own home as collateral on a loan. They take out money, they put the money into the business. And in the poor world, that is not available. So this 9.3 trillion, De Soto says, is 20 times the total of the foreign direct investment that went into developing countries between 1989 and 99, and 93 times the amount of development assistance from the rich countries. So this is a huge potential asset, much bigger than foreign direct investment, much bigger than money coming in from the outside, much bigger than other aid that, in the case of Haiti, the aid that's gone to Haiti that's been about, since 1980, I think it's $8.4 billion, which is a large amount of money, but it doesn't compare with the kinds of assets that would be available to people if they were able to get rights, property rights, to their own assets. Many times the dogs, De Soto says the dogs know where the property lines are in many communities because they start barking if somebody comes on their property. But the banks don't know where the property lines are. There's no legal designation. So property, this another, I guess I have too many of these regression studies here, but I like them. But here you have the correlation of legal property protection and GDP per capita, just showing that property rights really do matter, that countries that have good law also grow faster, and so this is one of the areas that Haiti needs to develop. I think I'm going to skip on to Haiti was rated on property rights at a 10 when the world average, this is on a freedom score, is 48.5. So you can see that they rank very low on this point. I want to leave some time for Joy Bollinger to speak to you. And so maybe I'll just comment just briefly on a couple other areas. Dr. Knoll already talked about corruption. I don't know, maybe Joy will have something to say about corruption, but I know her husband Peter was bringing in medical supplies right after the earthquake, and was there 2 weeks, and he spent 2 weeks at the airport trying to get the medical supplies through the airport, through customs, through the customs agents. And that's the kind of thing, and he knew that probably if he paid a bribe to the agents that he might be able to get it done more quickly. But when countries set up a lot of regulations, you find this everywhere in the third world. You set up a lot of regulations, then you have to have bureaucrats to police the regulations. Then the bureaucrats have a great opportunity to collect bribes or to hold people up. And this is another one of the areas De Soto talks about in his book, how long it takes to get anything done. And I have some data here. Here's just a little bit of it. Starting a business takes an average, this is in Haiti, takes an average of 195 days compared to the world average of 35 days. So if you want to start a business, you have to, this is full-time activity basically. You have to take your application and go through all kinds of hurdles, one after the other, repeated hurdles. And De Soto has found this first in his own country of Peru and then in a number of other countries as well. If you want to get a business license, it takes about 5 times longer than the world average. So, and there's you know, a lot of data like this that give you an idea that people are being held down. They're being kept from doing the kind of activity that would enable them to raise themselves out of impoverished circumstances. Well, I think I'll leave it at that. Maybe